Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Reborn Football podcast. I'm Tans,
And I'm Fuego.
and today football content is going to consist of Champions League last week and a bit of the review of the Premier League. But as usual, we're going to start with our verse of the episode.
So the verse of today's episode is Exodus 4, verse 10 and 11. And it says, Then Moses said to the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. So the Lord said to him, Who has made man's mouth, or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I, the Lord?
So, reading the Bible, I'm actually reading Exodus now, and I was reading that, and it just kind of, I got an idea in my mind for this episode to talk about, kind of trusting in God and having faith that He will provide for us what we need. So there is a different verse I would like to relate to this. It is Matthew 6, 30, which is, if that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will He not much more clothe you, you of little faith? So how these two, this verse, which is in the New Testament, and this story, which is the Old Testament, how I feel they relate, or how I feel they link up, is that essentially both of them are along the lines of God, telling Moses there and Jesus telling the disciples in the New Testament to not worry about, when we have to do certain things, when we have to do things for the Lord, that He will prepare us, and He will give us whatever we need, equip us with whatever we need to be able to do the task, to do the task at hand. Sometimes as Christians, like for example, even with this podcast, there's a bit of delay because we're kind of thinking, do we have the, what's the word, the authority, sometimes to even preach the word of God in public. But, and even, do we have the ability? What do we say? How do we, come up with verses? But, we have a verse every week that God gives us just from following the word. Sometimes you're not even looking for a verse to have for an episode. It just comes. And it's just, having that faith in God that no matter what you decide to pursue, even if it looks like a huge mountain, a huge, obstacle to scale, that God will prepare you, God will give you whatever you need to be able to, achieve whatever He wants you to do in your life.
Yeah, so I would echo Tans there again. Just the whole thing is about God knows kind of from the beginning what's going to happen. So when He gives you a task or gives you a job or gives you a position and you feel underqualified, you feel like, of all people, why would you choose me? God knows what He's doing, and God has a plan and knows how He's going to equip you with what you need to do this. So it actually even just makes me think back to, we have there was something sent into the instrumentalist group chat for my church literally this evening, and it's a song that the person who's going to be leading praise and worship wants to sing on Sunday, and it talks about God being dependable. So it says things about, it doesn't matter what comes my way, that you're still God, and that all things are working together for my good. So if you kind of relate that to Moses' story, he did not think that he was qualified because, he has a stammer, he can't speak very well, he's not confident. But God knew what He was going to do. Obviously, He gave Aaron to him to kind of speak on his behalf, but then also said, as you said earlier, that He still said that they would both speak. And Moses did end up speaking with confidence, speaking with boldness, and telling the Pharaoh to let God's people go. So God knows how He's going to either equip you with what you need to carry out that task or to fulfill that role, or He knows what He's going to take you through so that from your experience, you will now kind of gain those skills that you need to be able to, do the task that He's given to you.
Even the people that He puts around you as well, because even in this story, He still listens to Moses and puts Aaron around them to be able to help him, to deliver to confront the Pharaoh and to deliver the promises of God to the Israelites at that time. So whatever it is, whether it's people that you need, whether it's equipment, whether it's money, whatever it is, in that moment, you just have to trust in the Lord that He'll be able to provide, especially if it's something that you feel that God is asking you to do. If God is asking you to do it, there's no way that God will not give you, the resources to be able to do it correctly. There's even a saying that's around on, social media that says, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. So, He doesn't bring people that are already ready. Maybe sometimes, but for most people, He doesn't bring people that are already ready. He brings you as you are and then builds you up, refines you to be able to, glorify His name, essentially.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So we're gonna head into the football portion of the episode now. And what we're gonna start with is a little bit of talk about the Champions League last week. So Champions League is back, and as an Arsenal fan, it was a very positive week. It was, a little bit emotional, being back in the Champions League for the first time in 6.5 years. I've told this story to my friends a lot. Well, not even told this story. Like, it's not really a story because a lot of my friends were there. But, for you guys that weren't there, that before last Wednesday, the last time that Arsenal played in the Champions League was the 7th of March, 2017, which coincidentally was my 13th birthday. And we lost 5-1 to Bayern to end up losing 10-2 on aggregate to Bayern. So that is not one of my favorite birthday memories. But we're back. We're back now.
Wait, if it was 5-1 not on aggregate, 5-1 in that match, 10-2 means it was 5-1 in the
first leg as well. Yeah.
Wow,
bro, we held it, man. Okay. But that Bayern gave us
that Bayern team.
But Bayern gave us 5-1 3 separate times because they gave us 5-1 as well the season before that in the group stage. Bro, Bayern actually. I could talk for like 10 minutes about the bad luck that Arsenal have had in the Champions League previously, but we'll come back to the present. It's been a long time since we were in the Champions League, and it was great to come back with a comfortable 4-0 win against PSV. PSV, a team that I thought could threaten us a little bit, but it was a very comfortable victory, with Kai Havertz having a good performance, Saka, Odegaard, pretty much the whole team. It's great to be back in the Champions League.
Yeah, just to speak on that match, I think it's kind of a thing of, obviously, Arsenal fans in particular have been anticipating this moment for a very, very long time. I was talking to one of the bassists at my church on the way back from work one of the days. I was like, I think he was maybe halfway through secondary school or something like that whenever Arsenal last played in the Champions League. And he's 2 or 3 years out of college at this point.
Out of college?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's been a long time. But I think Arsenal have come back and they've made a statement that this year, obviously last year was kind of disappointing with not being able to reach the heights of winning the Premier League, which they almost did. But it's kind of a statement that, we're back in the Champions League, but not only are we here to stay, but we're also here to challenge the teams who think, Arsenal are only just back. They're not used to kind of the busy schedule and then the kind of top European competition. But they're like, we're here to give you a run for your money. And I do believe that Arsenal could go very far in this Champions League this year.
I think we could go very far, but, a very, a kind of new dynamic to consider is that we now have 2 competitions where our best players are going to be playing, because we played in Europa League now for a long time. There's even a season where we had no Europe at all, so we've really been through the trenches. But for example, group stages, like this time last year, wholesale changes for the Europa League games. So at least some of our players, even though they're not resting the whole week, they're at least getting some rest. Maybe Europa League, they're just playing 45 minutes. Saka, maybe just a little 20-minute cameo, you know what I'm saying? But now, very few changes. A lot of the players, for example, Ben White, Saliba, Declan Rice, those 3 players all played 90 minutes against Everton last week, and against PSV. Actually, I'm not sure Declan Rice played 90, but the majority of the game against PSV on Wednesday. So, that's the reality of it. And I mean, yesterday, Arsenal drew 2-2 with Tottenham, and that could be a sign of the after effects of having to play 3 serious matches in a week.
Space of like 8 or 9 days.
But that is the reality of being back at the level that we want to be. That's what Man City have been dealing with for years. That's what Real Madrid deal with. And if we want to win the Champions League, then we've got to find a way to deal with it and deal with it fast.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's also a thing where it'd be interesting to see how Arteta kind of manages injuries, because at this current moment in time, we know the likes of Timber, Nelly, obviously Declan Rice went off yesterday. We don't know how serious that is.
Saka did as well.
Saka did as well. I don't think Saka's going to be too serious though.
Yeah, but it's like even the little niggles. Then Trossard as well. Trossard as well got injured. I think the day before in training. So it's just going to be interesting to see how we deal with that. But switching from a team with not too much recent Champions League experience to the current defending champions, City. How was the first week?
I think for first match day one in the group stage, it was just too easy. It's a thing where it's just formality. If you're playing Red Star, you're expected to win. Now, at the same time, they kind of need to be careful because anything can happen in any football match. So it's a thing of not getting too complacent, but just doing what you know how to do, basically. And City did that last Tuesday. I remember Julian Alvarez's second goal kind of just reminded me of KDB's goal against PSG. I think it was the season that Chelsea beat us in the final shot.
All right.
So it was a thing where he took the free kick and it's basically just supposed to be a cross.
Yeah.
Nobody went to meet the cross. Keylor Navas just watched it and thought, okay, maybe it's going out of play, basically, and then it just goes in. So it's a thing where technically he didn't shoot, but he scored the goal. Exactly the same thing happened with Alvarez there on Tuesday, but it was from a lot further out. It was just this really big looping ball, and I was like, "What's going on here?" Because I was looking at it as it was coming down in the highlights. I was like, "This is not going in." Keeper didn't judge it well at all. He kind of got his hand to it, and it just bounced off his hand and went in. But that Red Star keeper is a serious keeper. I was looking at some of the saves that he was making. I was like, if only his defense was not so bad. Technically, if they had won that game or if they had drawn, he would definitely have been man of the match. He played so well. But that's just a thing there for maybe the teams who would be seen as favorites coming against these smaller teams, that not to get complacent, because small teams can cause upsets in the Champions League.
Red Star scored first as well, didn't they?
I believe they did.
Yeah, they scored first, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Because I can't remember my man's name, the Ghanaian. Am I right to say Ghanaian? I think he's Ghanaian.
Oh yeah, the brother that sued when he scored against Portugal when they were 3-1 down.
Yeah.
Man, that was too funny. I actually remember that. I was even in college. I was watching that game. That was so funny. Like, he did it. To be fair, yeah, I couldn't even hate fully because, like, you know what I'm saying, bro, like scoring at the World Cup. Do you know how many people out of all the people on earth get to score at the World Cup? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even hate. It was funny though. But what's his name though?
Osman Bukhari.
Osman Bukhari, yeah. But you think City will run it back? You think City will do it again?
I don't know. I think maybe November, December time is going to tell us what kind of direction they're looking towards, because obviously they can go back to back in the Champions League if they focus on that. They can do a 4-peat in the league, which would be history being made. And technically, if you're looking at it based on the quality of the squad that they still have, they could do a treble again. But the likelihood of that happening is not high at all. So I think once we see if there are any other significant injuries that happen in that squad, we're able to see what direction Pep is looking in terms of what competition is he focusing on and how is he going to manage absences for whatever reason. Because, like, say, for example, Rodri's now out for 3 games after Saturday. So managing that, obviously he has the likes of Mateus Nunes and Calvin Phillips to kind of call upon, but those type of players are not ones who are kind of playing regular,
especially Calvin Phillips.
Yeah,
It's actually,
exactly.
Calvin Phillips kind of declined, with injuries. Obviously, it's not all his fault. He has had a lot of injuries, but I have had a soft spot for Calvin Phillips over the past couple of years, because I remember when Saka missed this penalty in the Euros final. I remember that Calvin Phillips was the first guy to go up to him and just help him in that difficult moment. So as an Arsenal fan, I've always hoped for Calvin Phillips to do well, but it hasn't gone well for him at City so far.
I think when you look at how easy is it to bench Rodri? Is the
I won't
question.
lie, you actually you can't bench Rodri, but at the same time though, he could Pep could give him a little rest. Rodri plays every game.
I feel like it's because he's so reliable that he knows he's going to play every game. He's going to play well in every game, and it's very unlikely that he's going to kind of injure himself, or even if he does, it's not going to be a thing that he is out, as in cannot play a football match because of that, which is probably the reason why Pep keeps kind of calling on him, and it's like, Calvin Phillips will get his turn, but when is he going to get his turn? When Rodri's either injured or suspended.
And Calvin Phillips has to take advantage of this as well.
Exactly.
This is a key. 3 games. I don't think Rodri will probably never miss 3 games again unless he's injured.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big opportunity for Calvin Phillips to kind of change the narrative in his City career.
Yeah, definitely, because it's similar to the thing where, although Foden is not like a for like swap for the likes of for someone like KDB, because KDB's out for such a long time, Foden is the more versatile player who can kind of try and play that midfield role or either play out on the wing. So Foden has been given the opportunity to take his chance, and at this current moment in time, he is taking it. So we want to see Calvin Phillips kind of do the same thing.
It's worse for Calvin Phillips though, because as you said, Foden's a more versatile option.
Exactly.
It's not like Foden is just on the bench the whole time. He is still starting a good amount of games, just not as much as maybe you would like at this age. But Calvin Phillips is a 6. He's not playing anywhere else. So if Rodri's playing, Calvin Phillips is sitting bench, and Rodri's playing 90 minutes most games as well. Rodri's what's the word? Durability. It really has to be commended. To be playing that often and playing big minutes as well in important high intensity
and
games.
Being effective in those games as well.
But I'm being effective defensively and offensively as well. That I think actually out of curiosity, is that the most unanimous best player in their position in the world right now?
For the past maybe year or just over a year, yes, I would definitely say that.
Yeah, because I think it's a lot closer in other positions. The level between Rodri and kind of the next guy is, I think it's a lot. I can't lie. It's a lot. For the consistency and the levels that he's doing it at. Obviously, as an Arsenal fan, I would like to put Rice up there, but I cannot put him above Rodri for the moment. Rice still has to show a lot. Rice has started his Arsenal career well, but Rodri is really probably the best, the most unanimous best player in this position, right now. And, if you even wanted to kind of, explore that angle a little bit, who are the best players in their position, maybe for some of the positions, right now? Who's the best striker in the world right now?
I would go for Haaland, but it's really because Haaland is effective at what he does, and then he also has very good service. So he has a team basically built
around him
for him to do his job the way he does.
Don't get it twisted. He does his job and he does it very well. Even though as a rival fan I do not like it, he does his job very well. You know what I'm saying? And you can't fault a guy for always being in the right place at the right time. He does his job very well. Probably the best striker in the world at the moment. Any other
than him.
Maybe Osimhen, but the numbers still favor Haaland quite heavily. Although Osimhen, leading Napoli to their first Scudetto since Maradona. That is That is definitely a crazy achievement.
Yeah.
And I would like Kane. I think Kane would be Haaland's closest challenger. Keep in mind, bro, Kane scored 30 in the league last year and didn't win the Golden Boot
That's
because
the
of Haaland.
funniest thing, that Kane will
And that's the second time Kane has scored 30 and not won the Golden Boot.
Kane will break his PB and not win an award.
It was Salah, I think 2018.
Yes,
yeah,
Salah scored
32 and Kane scored 30 and didn't win the Golden Boot. Ridiculous. Like Kane is a ridiculous, all-round striker, like thank God the brother finally left Tottenham, man. Like thank God. He's probably finally going to get his trophy, although I won't lie, I did have a good laugh at his expense when Bayern lost the Super Cup or whatever. Super Cup,
because it was like they were saying, he's pushing to start in the Super Cup tomorrow. He's literally still in London.
Bro, he signed on the Friday. I think the Super Cup was the Saturday.
He's still in London and he's pushing to start for a team that he has not signed for yet. Now, we knew he was going to sign, but it's like, you haven't even trained with these men and you want to play because you want to win a trophy.
They lost. That killed me, man. That actually killed me. But he started the season well. Hat-trick at the weekend. I think that's 7 goals.
Since he got there.
Yeah, 7 goals in Bundesliga already. He did he, and then he scored a penalty against United in the Champions League last Wednesday, I think. So that would be at least 8 in all competitions. I'm not following the German Cup, but that should be at least 8 in all competitions. So that's a good start. And obviously he's going to be playing, with a good supporting cast around him. Last year he really carried Tottenham. Now, I mean, Tottenham didn't do well, but like he was by far their best player.
Yeah.
And maybe if his team had done a little better, he would have been closer to winning the PFA Player of the Year because, 30 goals, that's really something for a season. But striker is definitely between Haaland and Kane. Definitely between Haaland and Kane. I think a more harder position, that I don't think there's a really clear candidate for the best centre-back in the world right now. Like, I think a few months ago, I would have said Stones. I really like Stones. I think I'm higher on Stones than the average rival fan. Because City fans, like, I'm sure you're very high on Stones.
Not even.
But
as a centre back, not really. Obviously, because Pep kind of inverted him and had him playing as like a second CDM for the better part of the second half of last season. So I don't really see him as a centre back anymore. When he plays, he doesn't play that position.
What's he? Is he injured now?
I don't think he's injured. I think it's just a thing of whenever he was out or unavailable for whatever reason, the whole thing of somebody else steps up and then they kind of just get that position. So right now, I think he's playing with a back four of mainly
Ruben
Diaz, Walker, Ake, and Guardiola, and then
Akanji.
One of those coming out for Akanji most of the time. So Stones isn't really getting into that back four anymore. But look, I don't see him as a centre-back. Definitely, if he was playing centre-back, I would say, yeah, he's probably one of the ones who are up there currently as best in the world. But I don't see him as a centre-back as such anymore, which is the reason why I just wouldn't say that now.
Best in the world. I mean, yeah, you got Stones, Diaz. I mean, oh, man. You, have Stones, Diaz, and Guardiola.
Guardiola hasn't even played as a centre-back too tough since he got here either.
He hasn't done, but like, he had a really, really good season last year. He had a really good World Cup up until the Argentina game when Messi,
Messi had him on skates.
Yeah, I won't lie. Like, for that, I think he assisted, Alvarez for the 3rd goal in that game, the semi-final. But yeah, there's a good quality of centre backs right now. I mean, you got Diaz, Stones, got Saliba as well. That's my boy. And then obviously you got Lisandro Martinez as well at United. Although he hasn't had the best start to the season, but he had a really good season last year. Then you have I think Araujo for Barcelona. Although I think he's injured at the moment. I'm not completely sure, but yeah, I think he's injured at the moment. Then you have what's it called? What's his name? Van der Ligt at Bayern. Van der Ligt at Bayern as well. So I think the centre back place is probably a place where I don't think there's a real standout candidate for the best centre back in the world at the moment. Even Van Dijk has underperforming the last little while. Even though Liverpool are doing well, Van Dijk hasn't been amazing. I think this question, if I ask this question, who's the most unanimous best in their position? like 4 years ago, I think it would have been Van Dijk.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
Because
like that 2019, 2018 period. Van Dijk was so many levels ahead of every other defender, not even just centre back, ahead of every other defender in world football. It's actually crazy. I was even talking about it today with one of my friends at college. I think Van Dijk should have won the Ballon d'Or that year,
yeah,
2019.
yeah, he came second, didn't he?
Yeah, Champions League, best player in the Premier League that season. But, that's discussion for another day. I mean, if we could get into the wingers.
Wingers is techie.
Wingers is, yeah. I mean, right wing, best in the world right now, probably Salah.
I mean, it's a shout, yeah. No, I can't really think of many people off the top of my head, so I'm not gonna kind of argue with it or say someone else. But
Probably Salah, and then right left wing you got Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny was the one that came to my head.
Vinny,
yeah.
Probably the best left winger in the world right now. Though I think he hasn't had the hottest start to the season, but Vinny, Rashford had an amazing season last season, but again also hasn't had the hottest start to this season. But probably to answer the original question, Rodri is probably the most, quite clearly the best in his position right now.
Definitely. Yeah. I was gonna talk a little bit about this weekend. Obviously, we had North London Derby. I don't know, maybe from a supporter's viewpoint, because I didn't get to watch too much of it. And I wasn't too sure, but maybe you can tell us a bit about what you thought.
As an Arsenal fan, I was really disappointed with our overall performance from minute 0 to minute 90. Now, being, truthful and unbiased, Tottenham were better than I expected them to be. I have to be honest, Tottenham at home, my entire life, even if, it's always been we win. Sometimes we draw, but we win most of the time. And they rarely ever lose. We rarely ever lose. Like my time watching football, Tottenham have never beat us at home in the Premier League. Now it was 2010, but I wasn't really watching football like that. I think it was like 6, so I was expecting, kind of even against the run of form, like we've had worse teams whip up Tottenham at home. I was expecting us to just kind of like rise to the occasion and play, some good football. And what we did for like 10, 20 minutes in the first half, overall, like, our ball retention was poor, decision making, and then this our little trend of handing goals to teams at home, came to bite us, in where the sun doesn't shine again, with Jorginho making the error for their second goal. I think overall was a very poor performance from Arsenal, but the injuries, like we discussed earlier, are starting to pile up a little bit for us. I hope it doesn't continue to pile up. But yeah, I also have to give praise to Tottenham. They did stifle us. They didn't let us play our game. But I feel like a lot of it was down to our control and what we didn't do, in the game.
Yeah. I would maybe just speak on Tottenham's kind of performance that, I think Tottenham probably could have played better, realistically. They played really well and they were effective considering the Arsenal side that they were up against. Son is Son. He's a beautiful finisher of the ball. Maybe yesterday was probably one of his better games. I remember I was looking at something, someone was saying something about, in matches like this where it's kind of more open because both teams kind of have something at stake, he will kind of thrive because he's a very good finisher and he's good at getting in those positions. Against teams who do not mind playing a low block and counter-attacking, he's probably going to struggle a little bit more because, as a striker, that's probably the most difficult kind of game to play in where you've got your back to goal pretty much for the whole of the game. But overall, he did play quite well. Maddison also played very well.
Yeah, Maddison was ridiculous. My man of the match. He completely overshadowed Odegaard. Odegaard, I thought, had a really bad game. In the moment, in the motions of yesterday, I was obviously annoyed at Jorginho. I was annoyed at Nketiah, one or two other guys. But I think the person who actually had the worst performance yesterday was Odegaard, like, especially when compared to what Maddison was doing for Tottenham. And then Son as well. Son kind of made me eat my words. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm not Son's biggest fan. If Pharrell is watching this, he'll be laughing right now because he is probably Son's biggest fan, amongst my friend group. But yeah, 2 goals, 2 well taken goals, especially that first finish was ridiculous. Like just first time in off the post, keeper couldn't move. Yeah, credit where credit's due for Tottenham. They didn't roll over and lie down like I expected them to. In all honesty. But yeah, Arsenal, have to be better. In at home, especially this calendar year, we've conceded 3 goals in the first minute
at home.
I was actually there in the stadium for one. One of them was the Bournemouth game.
I mean, you brought it back, but
that was ridiculous. We did the whole North London Forever. I have a video on my phone of us singing North London Forever. 10 seconds after that video, 1-0 down. But something that really needs to be nipped in the bud for Arsenal. But considering of leaking goals, Sheffield collected 8
that's what yesterday. I was about to talk about that as well. Bro. The funniest thing is 8 different goal scorers.
8 different, bro. That's ridiculous, bro. All of Newcastle's attackers, both starting and subs, scored except Harvey Barnes because he was subbed. I think he must have had an injury because he was subbed the 12th minute.
Early enough, okay.
Bro,
okay.
Isak scored, Wilson scored, Almiron scored, Bruno Guimaraes scored. Who else? Who's the other? And then even 2 Newcastle defenders scored as well. Anthony Gordon as well. Anthony Gordon scored as well.
Sven Botman scored his that was, I think they said it was his 50th, whether it's 50th Premier League match for Newcastle or 50th match for Newcastle, but it's his first goal for Newcastle.
And Dan Burn as well. Dan Burn,
Sean Longstaff also scored.
They let Longstaff eat. That's crazy.
The thing is, Kieran Trippier got 3 assists. I was like,
if Trippier didn't score.
He didn't score. It's surprisingly he didn't score because it's such a free scoring game. But Trippier is probably one of the most, in my opinion, for last season, he was just a shoe-in for my FPL this season again as well because I know he's going to perform.
I can't believe I didn't have him in my FPL, man.
He's one of those guys that, okay, sometimes he might not have an effective game where he doesn't grab an assist or something like that. But if you put Trippier on a free kick, I think people don't really deep it. But Trippier is scoring 8 times out of 10 from a free kick, first of all. And second of all, every other match he's gonna get an assist or probably bag multiple assists or something like that.
Yeah, his delivery is exceptional, that 8-0, but even coming into something a little bit, broader than this, and we're probably gonna end the episode with this.
Yeah.
The promoted teams are all in trouble. They're all going back, bro. They have 3 points between them after 6 games.
I think Luton got their first point.
Luton have 5 games played, by the way. Yeah, Luton have 5 games played.
Yeah, they drew with Wolves, but Wolves went down to 10 pretty early in that match.
And then Wolves scored first.
Luton is a different story. We're just gonna have to see. Can it get any worse than it already is? We know we're only 5 games into the season, so it's kind of a thing where, or 5 games for them anyway, that maybe don't write them off so early, but it's not looking good.
If I don't gamble, but if I did, I would be looking very, very, ravenously, hungrily, whatever the word is. I would be looking very intently. I think that's the right word. I would be looking very intently at the bet for Luton to have the worst points in Premier League history. I would be looking at that bet so hard. If any of my friends that bet are watching this, I think you should make that bet. But I think that is a really, really good bet because the what's it called? The odds would be really good on that. I could probably just put for 5 or something. Bro, that is, bro. I think they're gonna get the least amount of points in Premier League history. And then, but even then, I thought Burnley would do a lot better than they're doing. But I watched their full game against United. I've watched 2 full Burnley games this season. Their opening game against City, and then United on Saturday. Now, the opening game against City, City destroyed them, but that was City. I didn't take too much from it. Defending treble champions, whatever. But United are not the best team in the world. And Burnley competed with United, but the thing that concerned me, the thing that made me look raw, these men are not looking good, is that they are, they are so toothless. They don't give you anything. They just all these nice passes, but They can't play across. Nobody, heading stuff in. Like Sean Dyche's Burnley wouldn't have been like this. They would always give you a game. They'd rough you up a bit. Like they don't offer anything. Maybe it was a bit naive of them to think they could come up in the Premier League and start like playing passing football. I mean, not that you can't, but you need a bit of grit as well. There's no grit in their team. Like
again, it's another thing where we're early enough on in the season that you would just hope that this is just them starting very slowly because they haven't been back in the Prem for a while, and that it's not a more kind of a deeper problem, which something that Chelsea have. I don't really want to open that now. We might talk about that maybe next week, but something where it might just be a thing of this system that's in place at the club might need some sort of massive restructure. But hopefully that's not the case, and we'll actually see them play slightly better football in the near future. But
yeah, I think we're gonna come to the end of this episode now. Thank you guys for the support as always. Thank you for listening to this episode if you've made it to the end. As always, we have our social media platforms. We got Instagram, and then we got the actual episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcasts, and YouTube. And just thank you for the support as always. Our link tree is in the bio as well, where all these links are in the same place. And I think I'll let Fuego take us up.
Yeah, thank you so much again, guys, for listening, for joining us. We do appreciate all the love and support. And if you continue to like the content, please continue to support. Of course, Instagram handle is at RebornFootball Podcast, and you'll find everything there, the link tree, all the links to the different podcasting platforms. And we'll see you guys all in the next episode.
Stay safe. God bless.